Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wadcast podcast. I'm your host, Eddie Ift. We have an amazing episode. I always say that, but I can tell you this, that our guest today is a former guest and was the most downloaded episode of all time. So Mr. Ryan Flaherty from Nike Training is here, the head of the Nike Performance, and he's just an awesome guy and one of the most knowledgeable and inspiring guys ever. Today's episode, I want to let you know, is brought to you by the Wellness Group. The Wellness Group is an on-site concierge testing clinic. They basically come to your box and can do COVID-19 tests for you. You can have all your members show up and open up for a community event where you test everybody for COVID-19. And really good thing to do because you can find out if anyone's, and they come one by one by one. You can hold it in your parking lot. You can do it wherever you want. But these guys have been doing this for years with influenza and flu shots, and now they have the COVID testing. They use the Abbott test. So it's a great thing to do. You get all that data. It helps us as a country, helps your gym, helps your members feel safer. So check them out at they are at info. You email info@wellnessgrp.com. Mention Wadcast in the subject line too. Again, though, Ryan Flaherty today. You guys, thank you guys for all the. I get so many nice emails from you guys. I can't thank you enough. I love to get emails. I love comments on on iTunes, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. That's the best thing. I love when you guys leave comments, and they're nice ones. I don't like when they're shitty ones, but I deal with it. You know, people complain about everything from the sound of my daughter yelling in the background to whatever it might be. But I try to put those out of my head, and I like the really good ones. So everybody who comments, thank you very much. If you're wondering about Hunter McIntyre, because we've been talking so much about Murph, I did Murph. I had to sub everything because my elbow is so shitty right now. I had to do sit-ups. I did it different. I did 100. Did I do 100 sit-ups and then 200 push-ups? No, I think I did 100 push-ups, 200 sit-ups, 300 air squats. Still had a shitty time. Didn't even wear a vest. But Hunter had a good time. Hunter broke the world record as we know of. I think he ran it in 34:12 or 34:13. 34:13. If anybody knows of anyone who has done it better and has it on film and had a judge, we're going to say the official world record's Hunter. Ricky Gerard claimed he did better, but I don't know if I trust Ricky. I'd like to see it. He claimed he went 1 second faster. A guy beat Hunter next to him, but the guy's standards weren't there for anything he was doing. No one was judging him, so you can't count that. And Matty White did not. Matty had a great time. He was at somewhere around 35, so he was just about a minute shy, I think. And Jared Moon had an incredible time, but he did it in uniform and combat boots. So watch out for him. But congratulations, Hunter, for having it. And congratulations to all you people that did it, who went out there and did Murph and suffered for all the right reasons. And, it was, we're there doing it to remember the servicemen, the men and women who, died for us. So that's the reason to go out there and do it. Michael P. Murphy, who it's named after, and that's the one thing we always want to keep in mind when we do it. It's fun to break records. It's fun to compete, but it's also most important that we remember all those people that went out there and laid their life on the lines for us. So you guys want to help out the show, Patreon is the best way. Go to Patreon. It's wadcastpodcast.com/Patreon or patreon.com/wadcast. And you can just donate. If you donate a couple bucks, I think it's $5. $5 a month, and you get, think about it, that's like an episode, $1 an episode. That's fair, $1 an episode. And it helps out the show, pays some of our bills, and you get possibly pretty good chance you'll get a leopard claw and a myopux. I think they're out of the leopard claws right now, so they're giving out leopard paws. I haven't seen a leopard paw yet, but I'm sure it's awesome because the leopard claw is incredible. And the myopux is the best thing ever. It's an electronic muscle stimulator that pumps your muscles, basically, and gets you through injury much quicker. And it's got a TENS machine built in, so it works with pain. And then the leopard claw, I used constantly to on my arm to try to fix it, and it is the only thing that works. That and voodoo flossing are the two things that work. So I use it to scrape, and it's getting better. It's just going to take me a little while. Wasn't healing without this stuff, but it is healing now. So make sure you donate, and then let's see. I got a nice somebody, RRH from Canada, said, really enjoying the show. Murph's series of interviews was very cool. Eddie's hitting the balance between being entertaining and informative, suited for regular people interested in their health. True to why I always listen to the elite intermediateness. Favorite one of these style of podcasts. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, RRH. I got another nice one. In searching for a podcast devoted, this is from RevBuilt. In searching for a podcast devoted to CrossFit, this was the first choice I made, and I'm glad I did so. I really enjoy listening to the show. Not only is it informative, it's entertaining as well. I always believed that a serious topic can still be handled in a way that infuses some humor in as well. And that's what this podcast accomplishes. I don't always have time to listen to the show on a regular basis, but when I take long trips in the car or just need to chill out, this is my first go-to. Keep up the great work, Eddie. Well, thank you very much, RevBuilt. And another one from Scaled _AD. I look forward to this podcast every week. I drive a lot for work, and Eddie's humor keeps me laughing the whole drive. Keep up the great work. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Here's a nice one. AR Guy. I've been listening to this podcast for years. Love the episodes with Bobby and Hunter. Also really enjoy the variety of guests. Well, you're going to love our guests today. Check them out. Like I said, I can't say enough about this guy. He's awesome. Before I bring him on, I just want to mention Saturday night. If you like this podcast, Saturday night, I am doing my crazy old podcast, Talking Shit. I used to do this crazy podcast for 499 episodes, and it was out of control. It was the most politically incorrect show you'd ever hear. We had to scrub the internet to get episodes off to save people's careers, and we're bringing it back. We're using this new platform called See Alive. Who knows? I might be doing it with this too. But See Alive is incredible. If you go to my Facebook, maybe I'll post on the Wadcast page too, but if you go to Eddie F's Facebook or my Instagram, it's in my bio. See Alive is where you get the tickets. That's CYA Live. Tickets are $15. It's an interactive show, so you can be a part of the show. You can send us videos that we can put up and talk about. I have awesome guests going to be on. I have Brian McCarthy, Yoshi Obayashi, Lachlan Patterson, Joe Prano, Ms. Pat, and you never know who's going to jump in. So, like I said, totally interactive show. It's going to be like nothing you've ever seen, and tickets are available now, $15, and this is the new normal. So this is how we're doing comedy for now. So please check out the show. If you like this and you like the raunchiness or craziness of this, it gets 1,000 times worse. So I hope to see you there. And thanks for listening to the show, and enjoy this episode with Ryan Flaherty. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wadcast podcast. Today, you are so lucky. I have probably one of our most listened to episodes ever. That guest, and he's hard to get a hold of. He's hard to lock down. He's very elusive, and he ghosts me all the time. Ladies and gentlemen, the head of performance training at Nike. I hope I got the title right. Ryan Flaherty. How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm loving this pandemic more than anyone.
I know. As an introvert, I told my family the other day, I think I was built for this. I've been training for this my whole life, so I'm ready to go.
I have so many friends saying that. I'm like, take away the fact that I'm not making any money and that people are dying, I'm good with this. like that's the part of it I don't like. I don't like the death and the economy collapsing and me not making any money. But I do love like family time. I love that we're eating all our meals at home. I'm not eating shit food.
Right. Yeah.
I'm exercising. Not actually as much as I'd like to because the kids beat the shit out of me.
Yeah. It's funny. A lot of people have been like, it's kind of, you hate when you compare yourself to people on social media, but people on social media are showing how many workouts they're getting in and everyone's getting ripped. And I've gone the opposite direction, unfortunately. Yeah. I'm eating 3 bowls of Cheerios. Yeah. Some days it's like, especially with a 2-year-old running around, it's not the easiest thing. I'm now back into a groove. I'm back in where I need to be. But for the first about 4 weeks of quarantine, stay home, I was not doing very well. So I'm with you.
There's also that kind of, why should I work out? Who's going to see me?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Like what luckily I've gone from working out for vanity to working out for health. So my workouts are, my kids are beating the shit out of me right now. Right now I have a 10-month-old who literally is hurting me. And I'm like, what's he going to do in 15 years?
Yeah, totally, man. I know.
I'm secretly going to take jiu-jitsu and not let him know so I can choke him out. But that's hilarious. So my buddy who's a trainer posted, it was funny. He posted the other day. He goes, gone are the days of beach body workouts. Now in are the days of Zoom call body. And so his whole workout was basically like shoulders and shrugs, like just the body parts that you see on a Zoom call. That's hilarious.
The whole workout was the Zoom body. I was like, that's genius.
Leg days out the window. And now
exactly. Shrugs.
Those neck exercises.
Yeah.
Did you ever see that workout device that's the hat with the weights hanging from it? Bobby has it, my buddy Bobby, crazy Bobby. But and he uses it a lot. He swears he has like no double chin because of it, and he's like 80. Yeah.
Oh, the boxing world, that piece of equipment is used every day.
That's something. I always send you stuff that I see, like scams or trainers that are up to no good or charging exorbitant rates of money, or pieces of exercise equipment that seem ridiculous.
Yeah.
What's the most ridiculous one right now that you think?
The most ridiculous one? I don't know, man. That's a tough one. What was the one you sent me last time? I forget what it was. I can't remember. But that's the thing. Look, there's so many people are always trying to figure out the next big thing in fitness. And the crazy part is, a lot of times there's the crazy ideas that you think are crazy end up being, $1 million ideas. I think for a lot of people, Bosu ball at one point was looked at as like, an insane idea. Like, why the hell would you use that? And all of a sudden, it's sold millions of units. And so, I think now, do I think it's the best piece of equipment? Debatable, but I think ultimately it's you can't, people choose what they like, and a lot of people choose to use kind of crazy pieces of equipment. I think it's hard because it's just a lack of understanding or knowledge of what people need. For the most part, people would be best off with like some of the most basic exercises and just getting better and better at those, But I think people just get bored out of their minds doing the same thing, so they look at a new machine that they see in the corner of the gym and go, "Oh, like I'm going to go jump on that because that looks interesting." They're probably 90% of them are using it wrong. And anyways, it's kind of it's a tough business because I think there's lots of equipment that gets created or invented that is pointless but sells a ton of units, and there's others that nobody knows about but are actually like pretty incredible pieces of equipment that can actually help you improve. So it's a lot of it's marketing, as you know.
We have Duffy Gaver's been on the show. I don't know if you know Duffy, trainer of LA, and Duffy's just like, he doesn't fuck around. Duffy's like, what do you do? He's like, 3 sets of 10, he's like, and then you run. And he's like, and he's like, what do you eat? He's like, chicken, broccoli, and rice. And he's like, look at my guys. He's like, look at them. And
I know, man. I know.
Okay, that works. So
that's the part about it, dude. I think that's the hard part about this industry. I think that's something a lot of friends of mine, peers of mine that we have conversations, friends of mine who are like, have their PhDs in, nutrition, do a ton of research in the nutrition field, and, just they have to watch on social media the deep, cleanses and the detoxification, recipes and the newest kind of like fad diet. And basically like what they keep saying is like, look, if you're into like lose weight, literally it stood the test of time. It's calorie deficit. Like put yourself in calorie deficit, you'll lose weight. It's like whether you do that through keto or you do that through paleo or you do that as a vegan, like whatever it is, you could be on keto doing intermittent fasting and doing every other week doing a 5-day water fast. You're losing weight because you're in calorie deficit. You're not losing weight because it's the one specific kind of variable you're introducing or whatever. So it's like, I think it's all a lot of it's marketing, and it's hard because it's the part that we struggle with at Nike a lot is helping, people who watch our channels or look at us. We have to constantly say, evidence-based, because there's just so much noise out there that people struggle with the noise. They don't know who to trust or who to believe because, this person is doing such a good job marketing their product or their diet that it seems like, oh my gosh, this is seems like the best thing I should be doing, when in reality it could be probably the worst for them based on, their medical history or family history, or whatever. It just really comes down to finding people you can trust who, work with evidence-based protocols or methods that, have stood the test of time, that research validates them, that, and a lot of times that the evidence-based approach isn't sexy and it doesn't sell. And I think that's the part that people struggle with is like, oh, this is so boring. I've been doing this workout for so long, but it's, it's not about the exercises. It's about adjusting, the load or intensity that you could still, get your body to adapt to, even though you're keeping the exercises pretty consistent and basic. At
Nike, do you have to vet everyone that you have everything that's coming through because you're looked at like that?
Yeah.
Like you're at the top of the food chain, and if you guys send something down that's looked at as, a charlatan, everybody's going to, question your judgment.
For sure.
So is that tough?
It is, man. Yeah, I mean, it is tough. And I think that's the thing since I came to Nike 3 years ago, and that was part of my, the ask for me as coming into this role was, look, we've been a footwear and apparel company for, our entire, lifespan as a company, but we're looking now to grow out into different areas from digital services to creating like content and, creating more of a relationship with people rather than just, selling them shoes and shirts. And I think, in doing that, though, as a company that creates products and markets them, they didn't have a lot of people there that could, vet or actually validate for them the right kind of trainers to align with, the right expertise to kind of, talk to. And they initially, it was tough because for most marketers that you want people to click on the content you share, but to do that, you a lot of times have to walk that fine line of being evidence-based or being a little bit, pushing the edges where there isn't a lot of research to support it, but, it's the popular diet right now, so people want to create content. If you want to be a part of the conversation, you've got to go there too. Like, great example is back in the day with the keto diet. I think, everybody was on it. And if you were creating content in the nutrition space, if you weren't talking about keto, like, you weren't getting views. And so the hard part is making sure that you stay tried and true to the research, because ultimately then research catches up to keto and goes, actually, it's not doing everything we thought it was doing, in comparison to a balanced diet. And so now everyone's kind of pulling back their claims and statements about it. MDs who wrote books on the keto diet are kind of pulling back a little bit because most people who are losing weight on keto are just doing it because they're in a calorie deficit. And, it goes on. And I'm not saying, look, there's nothing against keto. My perspective is like, it's so, individual and specific to you as, based on lifestyle, accessibility to food and, genetics, epigenetics, family history, all this things that play in, and your goals all play into what the right nutrition is for you. And so it's super personal. So I'm not saying one diet is wrong versus another. It just comes down to you as an individual. But the ultimate reason why you're losing that weight is due to the fact that it's just calorie deficit. So it's just helping people see, like, through all of that marketing, all of that noise, and all of that flash to, like, what the actual, like, research is behind what you're hearing. Is the science behind that is saying that you're in a calorie deficit because we're reducing calories, because we're taking away all carbohydrates outside of vegetables from your diet. And so that's going to instantly just put you in a deficit where you'll lose weight. That's what's happening, but people are seeing this, like, keto diet is this revolutionary, like, thing. And look, again, research is light. That, like, as more research comes, we'll know more. But it's not sexy and not super marketable to be the evidence-based group. But at Nike, we have a huge target on our backs. We're a public traded company that can be sued, for recommending something that causes someone to get injured or somebody to do something that goes against their doctor's advice. So we have to be really, really sharp and on top of our teams to make sure that every expert we stand next to is citing current research, and even the experts we're vetting every piece of content that they write, an article they put out, because PhDs and people who do research also are trying to sell books, and so it goes round and round. And I think for us, it's just the thing about this industry and the field of health and wellness is that there's the research is always 3 years behind, if not more, most of what's being talked about today. And to push the field forward, you've got to be willing to try and test new ideas. But the thing is it's hard to – everyone wants to be the expert. Everyone wants to drive profit. Everyone wants to create a business or sell their book or sell their point of view or become the expert so they can go on all the podcasts and build their name. The hard part is doing that and staying evidence-based. And so a lot of people walk that kind of gray area, that fine line. And, again, as Nike, we can't do that. We're already kind of too big of a company to do that. So for us, we don't need to be the experts. We just need to be authentic and be trusted. And so that's kind of who we are and what we stand for.
You've sent me to some really good experts that I've put on the show before. Who right now are some of your go-tos for, let's say, nutrition and training?
Oh man, from a nutrition perspective, I've actually been digging in. It's kind of funny. He comes from a different world than I do, but Lane Norton is a guy that I've been kind of watching his stuff. Really smart guy. He likes to get on Instagram and stuff. He gets really into it with people. He's not afraid to kind of tell you you're an idiot if you say something that's stupid. So he'll be like, "You're an idiot. You don't know what the hell you're talking about." Yeah. So he'll argue with people, and it's just he's enjoying to. He's entertaining to follow, but he's super smart, and obviously he's evidence based, and he kind of is the guy who's always out there going, look, this MD who put out this, detox cleanse and says it will help you, lose 30 pounds. It has nothing to do with the cleanse. It just has to do with the fact that he's having you, drink 40 calories a day. You're going to lose weight. It's just, sure. It's the, so he's just more of calling out people who are, pushing, outside of where science can support. So he's great. I mean, he's a really smart guy, and he's more on the bodybuilding, powerlifting, physique side of things. But he talks to everybody. I mean, obviously I've known Peter Attia and Rhonda Patrick for a long time, so I follow them.
They're two of my go-tos. I love.
Yeah, John Berardi is good. Precision Nutrition. John Berardi out of the back. He's back east. He's runs what's called Precision Nutrition, which they certify a lot of people, and they're kind of way of eating. He's really smart guy. Who else? I've been actually really recently for a lot of the female listeners. Stacy Sims is somebody who I've been talking to a lot lately. She's a former professor at Stanford, but all of her research is in the nutritional implications on menstruation and cycle and understanding foods and training aligning your training to your cycle and understanding the hormonal kind of differences between men and women, not treating women as smaller men, which for many years training was designed as very little differences between training male and female athletes, and she's kind of trying to push more and more research in that direction. So I've been reading a lot of her stuff recently. Georgie Brunville is another researcher out of the UK. She launched this app called Fitter Woman, which is around, again, something I use with a lot of my female athletes to really understand, implications of their cycle on their training and their competition and structuring their training programming throughout the month around their cycle. And we've seen huge improvements on that. It's funny because there's a lot of research for a lot of years that didn't support training, aligning your training to your monthly cycle. But, I have female athletes who, right around that time of the month would have debilitating cramps. They could not could not run. And if they did, it would just put them out. They'd be on the ground, crying, couldn't be in the light. It was that painful. And if that aligned with a really tough workout or a meet that we were competing in, that would be detrimental to their placing or, cause them to fall out of a tournament or competition. And so it was important for us to really understand and align that and part of that together, but it's not something that's talked about. Nobody talks about that.
I was just thinking that. I was because it's kind of taboo and it seems creepy. It shouldn't be, but it's because it's just such a fact of life. But it's always been because we live in this kind of I don't know. America. We were founded as a religious society, and this is not one of those things that's talked about. But it just occurred to me. I'm thinking about CrossFitters in general. Imagine you've got 4 days of the CrossFit Games, and if that falls right during the middle of your site, you're screwed. 100%. And they don't talk about that. The athlete can't make an excuse. No.
Sam
Briggs can't say, hey, I didn't perform well because I was having my period. And it's a fact of life, and it could play a major, major part in that. And I wonder, I've never ever, because I can't broach that subject with a guest on this show and be like, hey, where were you?
Yeah, tell me about your cycle. Yeah. No, I know.
But that just occurred to me that, like, imagine if men had that, like, we'd all be complaining and being like, I can't compete this week.
Oh, 100%. We would be dropping out left and right, and like,
could we move the date of that event?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. I think that's where this is a reality for, women all over the world, obviously, including athletes. And that's something that's just not talked about. I've had like athletes I train, Serena in some of the biggest competitions, the world tournaments in the world, where she would have a match where she like looks like crap and everyone's like, oh God, she just doesn't bring it today. And she was having some of the worst cramps that literally we had to pick her up off the ground in the locker room to get her out on the court.
Wow.
And it's just, she won't talk about it. She won't go to the media and share it. It's like, looked at as like, well, you're weak if you talk about that. And to me, and that's one thing we at Nike are really trying to do, is just we're trying to show, like, look, this is not taboo. Like, this needs to be talked about, because this is something that female athletes deal with that nobody shares in. A lot of the athletes I've worked with have had a hard time even talking to me about it, where they're like, look, I don't feel comfortable talking about this, which is why I bring up to share with your listeners is that it's Fitter, FITR, Woman app. I have no affiliation with them. Nike has no affiliation with them. There's no relationship there. So that's not what I'm trying to talk about here. It's just more of, I use it with my athletes. It's an incredible app designed to help you understand what you need to take into account in timing your training around your cycle, and when to like have, maybe like reduce the volume or intensity of your training around that time to avoid some of the issues that you have, like understanding the implications of inflammation, what your diet needs to look like, or hydration strategy needs to look like to help you counteract that, or what supplements can potentially help. There's a lot of research coming out. And Georgie Brunfels is the PhD who's the lead scientist on that app, and she's incredible. She is an expert that we work with our top female athletes, who I bring in to help coach me and the athlete on understanding on our programming and around competition, what we need to take into account. But I think a lot of people it's again something I'm trying to like do more of talking about, because it's such a huge kind of variable that I don't think people understand. And so it's important just to bring up and make it more common place to talk about.
With all your athletes being all over the world, when you say we bring them in to coach them, how do you do your coaching? Is it virtual coaching like this a lot of the time?
Well, right now it is a little bit, yeah. So what I do, so as the head of performance at Nike, I'm involved in a lot of the work we're doing around in our digital services. In the future, we're going there, and some of our hardware technology we're bringing out that will be out in a few years. Doing a lot of testing and working on collecting a lot of data and then helping train the algorithm around those things. But then outside of that, I work with our brand teams to help them understand the current environment, culture, science, and training to know where what concepts we want to stand for, what we call the 5 facets, which is training, recovery, nutrition, mindset, and sleep. And then I also still support our top athletes. So we call them our zero athletes, but they're the top 10 athletes we have on contracts. So think Serena, LeBron, Cristiano. And I don't train every one of them individually. A lot of the athletes we actually just support. So we have one of the top sport performance labs in the world that we bring athletes through with their team, their coaches, their trainers, their PTs to do force plate testing with them, do heart, VO2 max testing with them, get them in on a force plate treadmill with 360 cameras to really kind of find, small, blind to the eye asymmetries or mechanical deficiencies that we can help correct, or, start issues people are having, or, I oversee the Performance Council, which is the top experts in the field of those 5 areas that are not at Nike. So, Dr. Matthew Walker at Berkeley is our sleep expert. Sherry Ma, who's at Cal State San Francisco, used to be at the Sanford Sleep Lab, is another sleep expert we have. Megan Jones-Bell, who's the head lead scientist at Headspace. Her research is in meditation. Dr. Kevin Elko and Dr. Steph Cassiapo, who's both neuroscientists, who are some of the top sports psychologists, neuroscientists in the game. So all of them help lean in on providing information and resources to our top athletes to make sure that they have all of the recent research and evidence to help, inform our athletes on areas that they may need it or want help or that they don't. And so to each athlete, it's unique. So LeBron asks for a certain, set of experts capabilities. Serena asks for a different level, and I actually work with her more personally. Saquon Barkley, I train one-on-one, and Brooks Koepka, our golfer, is one I train one-on-one. So there's certain athletes that I go in and they don't have someone, so they ask me to do it, or they have a team already like LeBron and they just ask for support with sports science or data, or, you know, they're going to be in LA, a new PT that they're looking for. So I kind of bridge that gap as well. So it can look a lot of different ways. But right now I work personally with about 20 athletes one-on-one. And during COVID, like in the, you know, stay at home kind of quarantine time, I'm doing a lot of these Zoom calls with them and, you know, helping kind of them, you know, recognize that, look, we're all in this similar situation. We don't know a lot about what's going to happen in the future, but what can we control is, you know, our attitude, you know, our effort. What can we do with what we have right now at home and make the most out of it, and look at it as an opportunity to get better, rather than look at this as an opportunity that, you know, or something that's happened to us or we're a victim to what's happening. Just trying to find the opportunity in everything we're experiencing right now.
I hate to take you on this tangent because we could go for hours on this, but Saquon
yeah,
is one of the strongest people I've ever seen in my life.
yeah.
Like that picture. What did he clean and jerked or cleaned like?
Clean 6 or whatever it was, 400 some pounds. I forget.
It was ridiculous, and he was. I think he was only like a sophomore in college at the time.
Yeah. Well, the craziest story about that. So listen to this. So the athletes I train with certain athletes based on the strength ability we're trying to, you know, train, or the imbalance we're trying to work through, or something they need to improve on, I'll use Olympic lifting where necessary, right? So like I train athletes that are not training to be Olympic lifters. I train athletes who are trying to be better football players, or tennis players, or basketball players, or golfers. I'm not training Olympic lifters. So I'll use Olympic lifting where I need it and when it's necessary based on the athlete I'm working with, right? So I'm not a huge like only Olympic lift guy, but I do use them here and there. But so it's funny, when I first started working with Saquon, you know, I'd seen the video. Everyone's seen the video of him like in college, basically reverse curling and like, you know,
it's a
baby deer catching this bar under him and like standing it up. And you're like, this kid literally with the worst technique I've ever seen, just cleaned from the floor 400 whatever pounds, right? With like first try. So I asked him the first time I worked with him, like, bro, like, tell me about that story, like that. What happened there? I'm like, first of all, you know, let's not do that again because, you know, you got a lot to lose and I don't want you to blow your back out or something crazy. So let's just maybe avoid that. But he was like, oh no, you don't, the story's great. I'm like, all right, so tell it. So he's like, basically I was a sophomore. I was the guy that year. Like I was going to be the starting running back. Like, you know, you're a Pennsylvania guy. You know how big Penn State football is there. Like, you know, he was like the golden child at the time at Penn State. Everyone knew his potential, whatever. So the strength coach, he had some injury. I don't know if he had a hamstring strain that they had him out. So he was rehabbing at the time. And the strength coach was not allowing him to test with the team. So all of the team, his whole team was in there. It was testing day. And you know, as a former college athlete, like when it's, you know, PR day and one rep max day, it's like the music's loud, the team's hyped up. It's like a big deal. Coaches are slapping each other, you know, sniffing salts are out. It's like it's a real big deal. And so, you know, he was like in there, wasn't allowed to lift, was rehabbing. So he was off, like did not warm up. One of his teammates, who he was like had a little bit of a low key rivalry with, went in and just broke the record. So he was broke the Penn State record for a power clean, and his name was going to go on the wall. Saquon, without his team coaches seeing him, runs in, no warm up, goes under the bar and just lifts this thing. And his coaches apparently behind the video are coming running and going, what the fuck are you doing? Like, put the bar down, as he like catches this thing with like split legs, his back to arch, like just, like I said, reverse curled this bar up, you know, broke the record, beat his teammate's record, no warm up, and hadn't lifted the weight in like 3 weeks, dude. Like that's the part that people don't know, that story.
Where is that strength in him? Is that his quad? Is that his hamstrings?
I mean, well, let's just say you can't choose your parents, and apparently he did, because he did a hell of a job picking his parents on that one. I mean, look, man, I've been training the kid for a couple years now. He is the freakiest, strongest, most gifted athlete I've been around since, you know, and now he's not like more than Serena, or like there's other athletes I would say that are on his level of just like God-given, unexplainable, you know, genetics. Like he's got that. So I mean, his quads are just, and hamstrings, like his hamstrings have hamstrings. You know what I mean? Like they're like, I remember the first time I had a PT I've worked with for 15 years. He's worked with every athlete I've worked with. He's like one of the best in the world. And first time he worked on Saquon, called me. He was like, those fucking hamstrings, man. Like he's like, I've never seen anything like it. I just kept like having him like, you know, concentric, flex his hamstrings a few times concentrically just to like look at them. And he's like, I could not believe those things. So yeah, he's just a genetic freak. I think he's naturally gifted, but the thing about him, and like I've talked to you about before, it's he matches that genetic kind of gift with his work ethic, and he works his ass off and no days off. I mean, he's the type of guy I've got to like. Oh God, I've got to pull him out. I still to this day, this is not a joke. I'll structure his week when we're trying to like deload or reduce the volume just based on the time of year. So like if we're in the middle of March and we're whatever March, April, May, June, whatever 6-7 months away from a season starting, we're not like peaking, right? It's like we're in deload. We're like just building a foundation, a base, and his buddy will like take a video of him without him knowing, of him doing hill sprints on a Sunday without like me knowing, and I like will literally call him and he'll reject my calls to later, like, what's up, man, what's going on? He'll totally just pretend like he doesn't know that I know, but he's like that type of kid. But I mean, I'm not saying he's not a good listener. He listens too, but he just can't, he can't, he's like, if you wouldn't watch The Last Dance with like MJ.
Yeah.
It's crazy, right? You just think you get that inside look into how the greatest think. And look, a lot of times they're not the most popular guy or the liked person.
Nope.
They sometimes can put you off to where you like think they're assholes, and some of them are. But they do get the best at everyone around them. And Saquon's not like he's like just a genuine, like amazingly sweethearted kid who's just the best. I love, he's a great human being. But he just has that like willingness to be great that you can just see it in him. That he's just, when he gets the right talent around him, I think he'll be looked at as one of the best backs in the history of the game.
When I saw him play in college, the first time I saw him play is when I think he just ran all over Pitt, and I was watching his Pitt was my team, and I remember just going, "Who is this kid? He's the best running back I've seen since Tony Dorsett. Like this guy is ridiculous." And I just didn't hear enough talk about him. I was like, wait, what's going on? Doesn't he have some tremendous speed too? It doesn't he ever?
Oh yeah. I mean, he ran the I didn't train him for the combine, but he when he ran at the combine, I think he ran like a 4.38 or something.
And for running back,
235.
For running back, that's really fast.
Yeah, he's faster than that even. I mean, I've tested him since like I'm doing some flying 20s where he's hit some like 1.78 for flying 20, which is ridiculously fast. He's an incredible, and his ability to decelerate, man, his like ability to slow himself down, stop on a guy and change direction to get back up to full speed I've never seen anybody like it. He's just, he's going to be one of the greats.
Okay.
And for me, that game was the USC game. Do you remember that Rose Bowl game where he just went toe to toe with Sam Darnold, and it was back and forth? But that was just, that to me was like, okay, this kid is the truth.
And then Brooks Koepka, the golfer.
Yeah.
He's a freak too.
He is, man. Yeah, he's
the strongest golfer in the world, is he not?
Hands down. Yeah, it's funny. I first started training Brooks about a year ago, and he'd come to me. He wouldn't work with someone else for a long time, but he came to me because he had some injuries and some issues, and was just like, I just need to find somebody who's going to help me kind of work through this. And Nike and we got in touch and ended up working with him, and it was crazy because when I first met him, he told me, hey, I'm going to meet you out. I know you're going to be training your football guys. I'll come like at the end of the workout and meet you. So I'm on the field doing speed work with the group, and I look over a sideline, and there's this like the dude with like kind of like a tank top looking thing on, shorts and whatever. And I'm like, is that like a safety in there? Like I don't remember. I literally had to think for 5 minutes. I'm like, what NFL like safety or corner did I invite, or running back did I invite like to come? Is like Danny Woodhead, like. Who is it? Because I couldn't remember who inviting someone to come work out. And I walked up, I'm like, holy shit, dude. He's like jacked. Yeah. The dude is jacked like a NFL like safety or running back is, but he's a golfer, which is pretty insane. And I think it's funny because I think a lot of people don't realize this, but Tiger Woods had such a huge impact and influence on some of these young golfers to where back in the day, at Tiger's day, those guys that he was playing against, like Fred Couples and Ernie Els and Vijay Singh, those guys weren't lifting weights.
Never.
It was Tiger who kind of completely revolutionized and changed the game, where all of a sudden golfers started to think of themselves as athletes, and that's Brooks. Like he does not like to be called a golfer. He wants to be called an athlete. Like he's like, I'm an athlete. I don't look at myself as a golfer. Like I don't do what golfers do. I train myself like I am trying to train myself for the NFL or the NBA. Like I'm all in on being the best athlete I can be, and the rest will take care of itself. Wow. And that's how he approaches everything. And it was interesting because the guy who was training before I did, I mean, he was telling me, he's like, dude, I'd bench like 225 14 times before the Sunday at the Masters. And I'm like, wait a second. Why the fuck are you bench pressing 225 before the Masters when you got to go out there and like play? Like, what if you like popped a pec or something? You're like, what do you think? He's like, I don't know. I just like the way it makes me feel. It makes me feel like he's just that type of, that's the way he thinks. He's like a meathead.
I can't emphasize enough how important this is. This came to us, and I think it's really important for every CrossFit gym out there. Because right now, with COVID-19, the pandemic, the lockdown, you're probably feeling pretty helpless. And, most of us feel like there's nothing we can do, but there is. Scientists, experts, and government officials are saying that the one thing that we really need more than anything is testing. Testing's crucial to help, first of all, treat, isolate, and hospitalize people who are infected. But secondly, it's important because it allows us to confirm if someone's had the disease and has the antibodies, which helps public health officials understand the level of immunity in the population. People with the antibodies also, if it's in their plasma, it could theoretically be used for infusions of those infected later. Okay, so how are we going to make this happen? As a CrossFit gym owner or member, you have the opportunity to be a leader. Testing's out there and it's readily available. You always hear, oh, testing's not available. It is available. All you have to do is contact the Wellness Group. The Wellness Group is a premier concierge on-site COVID testing company. They've partnered with PMH Laboratories to perform the Abbott Diagnostic IgG antibody test and I think it's called the real-time PCR test. I think that's the swab one. So one's for if you're active, one is if you have the antibodies. The Abbott test is known as the gold standard in COVID testing. I believe it's the most accurate test. Don't quote me on that. As the country moves forward through its phases of reopening gyms, you're going to want your members to feel safe about coming back into your gym. So testing, getting this data, it's going to help you. It's going to help the country develop a fuller picture. And here's the best part of it. The cost of it, nothing. If you're employee or members, if you're, coaches, members, whoever, members' families that want to come, if they have health insurance, they have a PPO, HMO, Medicare, Medicaid services, they're covered and paid for under the CARES Act. So your members are looking into getting back in the gym. Why not organize something for the community through the Wellness Group, and you can have a testing clinic at your box. It's simple. All you got to do is contact the Wellness Group. Then your employees can sign up on the online scheduler on the day of the clinic. Nurses arrive at your gym, conduct the test. It'll take 5 minutes per member, and then it goes off to the laboratory and the report becomes available. You want to learn more about this, go to info, or you're not going to go, you're going to email info@wellnessgrp.com. That's info@wellnessgrp.com. Make sure you mention Wadcast in the subject line. And if you're a business owner out there and you're looking to get testing for your employees, this is the way to do it. Look, the federal government's not doing it. The state government's not doing it. As private enterprise, this is the way to do it. So go to email info@wellnessgrp.com, mention Wadcast in the subject line, and they'll take care of you. Oh, one of my favorite things to do is talk about ice cream, every flavor that I want to eat, why I want to eat it. I'm out right now, and I need to get more. And I eat pretty healthy, and ice cream's one of my go-to, usually cheat meals, but not now that I eat ice cream from Real Good Foods. This ice cream is real ice cream with real ingredients, but it's pretty good for you. It's got 4 grams of sugar and 180 calories per serving. You can't get that in any other. I mean, you could probably get it, but you wouldn't get the taste because this is extra creamy. It's got, how some of those healthy ice creams, you pull it out of the refrigerator, it looks like sorbet. It's got it's real chalky or icy. It's not like that. They use a sweetener. I'm going to let you know so you can look it up. It's called allulose. ALLULOSE. And it's not like regular sugar. It's natural occurring. It's a rare sugar. It's found in things like figs, dates, maple syrup. It has 1/10 the calories of cane sugar, no impact on blood glucose, meaning it won't spike your blood sugar levels, and it tastes amazing. Okay? So, it's it's like the sugar-free sugar, and it's made with fresh milk and cream. That's the important part, and that's why it's considered real ice cream, and it's classified as super premium real ice cream. Okay, it's got 16% butter fat in it. Oh God, I want some right now. And the pints are available online at realgoodfoods.com. That's realgoodfoods.com. And in your local vitamin shop, if that's open, if that's an essential place, go there, realgoodfoods.com, or your local vitamin shop. You want to get the bundle? They got a bundle because they have so many different flavors. They've got chocolate, Tanzanian vanilla, mint chocolate chip, peanut butter chocolate chip, and they have a free limited edition mystery flavor. So if you order right now, you're going to get that free limited edition mystery flavor pint and free shipping. So you're going to get 5 pints for $49.99 and free shipping. That's 5 pints, $49.99. Go to realgoodfoods.com. Okay? realgoodfoods.com. Hey guys, I want to talk to you about Macro Stacks. That's Macro Stacks. It's the best way to keep you on track. Macro Stacks. It's awesome. It's an app that you don't get it in the App Store. You just go to the website, bring it down. I'm going to tell you where it is. Macrostacks.com. That's MACROSTAX.com. Listen to what I have to tell you, then look it up, okay? And you're going to love me for this, because if you're struggling with your diet and you're trying to get your training in order, MacroStacks has the nutrition coaches that you need. That's right. They've got nutrition coaches that are going to help you. They've got a plan for you. It's scientifically proven. It's going to give you the results you need. And basically what it's going to do, it's going to track all your foods. Everything you eat, you're going to track. They've got 800,000 foods for easy tracking. It's so simple to use. You check out every single thing you eat, and you look and you can tell how much protein you've had, how much carbs you've had, how your macros, your proteins, your fat, your carbs, where you're missing out, where you need to add food, where you need to cut. You know exactly. And if you're struggling and you want to know what to eat, you're bored, they've got a nutritionist for you right there, free. And you just get in there, they're going to consult with you. They've got nutrition plans for every single activity level. If you're like a psychopath that works out 40 times a day, they got something for you. If you're just like a one time a week, or you don't exercise, they got something for everybody. They've got recipes for you. They've got a community there. Something you really want to get involved in. They've got daily nutrition or fitness tips to help you stay on track. And they've got a private Facebook group. They've got everything. It's just a community you want to get involved in that's going to keep your nutrition in order. You're all going to the gym, you work out, you have your community at the gym, but this is really going to help you at home when you need it, when it's late at night and you're like, what should I eat? Well, look at your macro stacks, see where you are, see how much, I had too much fat today. Maybe I need to have some more protein before I go to sleep. That's going to help you. They're going to help you navigate your pantry, and you're going to feel supported. So there's thousands of people that are using it, and join today. Talk to them, and like I said, they're offering a free virtual consult. Free, okay? If you need help navigating what to eat, how to cook, you want to do meal prep, whatever, they're there for you, okay? So this is a web app, and it's going to help you figure out how much to eat, stay on track, reach your goals. Do it now, and I'm promising you, you're going to get to where you want to go a lot quicker. So for 25% off your MacroStacks subscription, okay, 25% off, go to macrostacks.com and enter the code WODCAST, all right? WODCAST. When you enter the code, you're going to get 25% off MacroStacks, and then you're going to help me. You're going to thank me. You're going to be like, thank you so much, because I'm helping you. That's what I meant to say. That's macrostacks.com, promo code WODCAST. I could see weightlifting throwing off a golfer if they're not well trained, but for somebody that's well trained and they know what day they can lift, when they're going to be sore, what their volume is, I could see them working that in, that it just works perfectly.
For sure, yeah, and that's how. Luckily, he's trained his body his whole life that way, as looking himself like a football player, would train in the off season. As a golfer, he's trained himself that way doing plyometrics training, plyometric training, lower body strength work, and power training and power development. He's done all of that to get himself to where he is. But like really, Brooks is interesting because he's one of those guys where when I first met him, as much as I was thinking, all right, his physically, it's what makes him great. It's actually, dude, his mindset is steel. Like I've rarely been around somebody who just inherently has this like ability to lock in and focus in the way that he does, and almost things going against him, crowds turning against him being the heel of the final tournament where like Tiger's coming up behind him and everybody wants Tiger to win. Like he can take that and turn that into motivation, similar to what Michael Jordan does, right? MJ would find any reason to turn you into an enemy, and that's what Brooks can do. And Brooks has this ability to like lock in mentally in a way where no matter how he's playing, he can just save. Like his worst day is still better than some of your better days on the golf course, which is an attribute to his psychological like makeup. He's has the ability to just like not let the momentum get too far away from him, and just stay consistent. And the reason why most golf people don't realize is the golfers who are the number one in the world are not golfers who win the most tournaments. Yes, they do win tournaments, but they're the guys who stay in the top 10 no matter what. They're always in that top kind of like 5 to 10 zone on every single tournament, and he has that ability to do that.
Well, it's funny you say that. Rich Froning told me that about CrossFit. I said, how do you stay so humble? Because he's a really nice, guy. And
I've heard that.
I said, why are you so humble? And he goes, because I lose all the time. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, if you watch me in the CrossFit Games, he goes, I don't win very many events, if ever.
Yeah.
He goes, but I'm just the most consistent, and at the end, I win because I stayed consistent the whole way through where everybody else fluctuated. And I was like, I found that interesting. And, that happens with any sport. If any sport that they're doing throughout the year, that they've got to, like if it's just like you got to win at this one time but if you've got to be consistent throughout the whole time, that's what it's about.
It really is, yeah. And I think that's the area that I think, like what Rich has, what a lot of the top CrossFit athletes have. Like I know I've spent quite a bit of time with Matt Fraser over just him being a Nike athlete, and all the other top athletes I've worked with. People always ask me like, well, what makes him like so special? And like, how do you kind of like coach that in? What do you think is the secret to that? And I was like, my answer to that now with 16 years of experience of working with some of the top athletes in the world, and now being at Nike and having access to some of the top experts in the world. I'll say this, man, like when you look at like the best the business leaders, the top athletes, the people who are just the highest achievers in the world they just think differently. Psychologically, there's something unique about them that they train their mind like they train their body and spend the same amount of time doing it. So you talk about Kobe Bryant, you talk about Tiger Woods, some of these, Tom Brady, they spend as much time on their body as they do on their mind. And by what I mean by that is they don't sit in a room and meditate for 20 minutes and then call that training. Like they're actively training their self-talk all throughout the day. They're training the way they don't listen to their brain, like tell them to have doubt or you can't do this or that person's better. They talk to themselves. And there's a quote I always tell my athletes. It's like, most people listen to themselves. Successful people talk to themselves. It's this ability to create language and have that dialogue. Like Tom Brady was famous for saying, that famous comeback he had during the Super Bowl with the Atlanta Falcons. He had this internal dialogue of like laser sharp focus and so what, now what? It's like, so what, whatever happened, now what am I going to do? It's like this inherent ability to stay present and locked in. And if you're watching The Last Dance, one of the last episodes, one of Michael Jordan's confidants said like he was a wizard at staying completely in the moment. Like he never let anything get too far ahead of him. And that's what the best athletes in the world do. Every one of the ones I've worked with, they have this innate ability of just staying locked in the present moment and being all in. Whereas every other athlete I work with who's not yet there, they're all over the place. Like they're on their phone, they're thinking about what they have to do next. Like, oh, that athlete over there, they're all over the place mentally. Whereas the best athletes are just fucking laser sharp focused on right now and themselves and what they can do. And you can train that. Like that's the thing that working with all of the top neuroscientists that in the world that I've worked with at Nike, like one out of the Chicago, there's one out of Italy that I'm working with right now on a project with Elite Athlete Performance in the motor neuron system. That's what he founded, and he's going to win a Nobel Prize for it. But anyways, he and I have had these conversations. Like every human on Earth has 86 billion neurons in their brain. Everybody. Nobody has one more than another person. Yet our neurons that wire together, fire together. And what people don't realize is over the course of our life, how we wire our brain, our brain neurons together and how we fire them is ultimately what creates the people we are and the outcome of our lives. And I think, but you can, based on the concept of neuroplasticity, you can change that. You can train that. We can actually like push blood into certain parts of our brain and make those parts of our brain thicker. It's like the study that was done on those Tibetan monks that they brought in that had been in meditation for 20 years, based on people who had never meditated. Their prefrontal cortex was thicker than the people who didn't meditate. Like, you could actually thicken parts of your brain like a muscle by focusing your attention on that specific area, and your awareness draws you to different aspects and parts of your brain. And based on understanding neuroscience and bringing the right kind of tools to athletes, you can actually help these athletes train their focus to be able to lock in a way that no one else can. And like people like Brooks Koepka have this incredible ability to do that. And it's the kind of like the underground no one talks about training that a lot of these athletes do that separates them from the rest of the pack.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I was going to say to you, so having children or being a coach or raising an athlete, what do you do? What is the because it's funny you said about the self-talk. I take my daughter out on runs and hikes and all the time. She's 5 years old, and I'll hear her behind me. And because I've taught her self-talk, and I don't want to hear negative ever. You're only going to talk positively to yourself. And I'll hear her on a hill behind me going, "You can do it. You can do it.
I love it, man. That's awesome.
Do it." And and then she does it, and I reward her with accolades when she does it. But I'm torn between I think I have a little athlete, and I don't want to push her too hard. I don't want to be that dad that she resents years later, or make her do a sport she doesn't want to do. And I was saying to my wife, I was trying to argue this the other day, because I always argued against my dad. I go, I wanted to do the opposite of my dad. My dad wanted me to do football and golf. That was it. Football, golf, football, golf, football, golf. But my dad trained me the way I'm training my daughter. And I said to my wife, I go, he trained me. I went away from football and golf, but I used everything that he taught me and applied it to the things I did. So he was right. He was right. I just chose different sports.
Exactly. And that's the thing what people don't realize is that all of these top athletes, like Michael Jordan is a billionaire off the court, not on the court, right? And I've been in meetings with him at Nike. He is heavily, heavily involved in every decision that the Jordan brand makes when it comes to athletes that they want to sign, footwear that they're designing, concepts that they want to market. He is involved in every single aspect of that business. And he takes that approach the same way he did with his basketball career. So whatever you do and whatever person you are in as a young kid in sport, which is why it's so important if your kids do play sports, or if your kid is in some form of activity, to promote that with them, because what they're learning are skills that they don't learn in classrooms, that they don't learn in academia, that they'll take that with them everywhere they go. And whether it's interpersonally where it's about themselves, or interpersonally where it's about socially how they connect with people around them, and both are equally important. And so what you're doing is right on. And that's the thing I always tell my athletes, look, based on all the research we've done internally at Nike and with the neuroscientists we've worked with, when we're running some studies right now with, like I said, that professor in Italy, is that what we're looking at right now is ultimately when you talk to the top athletes in the world, the ones in the past that have been the greatest, deemed the greatest, like the Kareem Abdul-Jabbars, the Wilt Chamberlains, the Oscar Robinsons, the Rich Fronings, right, the Matt Frasers in the future. When you sit them all down and you talk to them about what the approach they took, not just physically but psychologically, and basically what they're doing physically is an attribute of their psychology, of how they're structuring their day, their process, what their schedule looks like, how they keep themselves disciplined and accountable to the goals and the visions they set. All of those things are all psychological first. It's the foundation is psychological. And what I tell my athletes is, success leaves clues. So if you want to be the most successful CrossFitter in the world, Olympic lifter, boxer, power lifter, football player, find the top 5 most successful people in the game that do that. And what you need to do is study them and understand what traits do they all share in common, because success leaves clues. And if you start to focus and learn, and what Kobe Bryant did was literally to the T copy Michael Jordan. Everything he did, he copied the way he approached the game, how he talked to his teammates, how he held himself disciplined, how he became more efficient. Now, he made it better and built on that ultimately for himself and what was right for him. But he used Michael as the blueprint and then built on that. And then he asked questions of every other great athlete. And I know this because Kobe told me that's what he did. And when I tell my athletes, it's like, Saquon Barkley wants to be the best running back to ever play the game. Jim Brown, Emmitt Smith, Tony Dorsett, right? Walter Payton, who are the top 5 running backs in your opinion, Saquon, in the world? Name them. Got it. Okay, study them. Read every interview they ever did. Watch every interview they ever did. Call them if they're alive today. Talk to coaches who played with them. Talk to teammates who played with them, and study the shit out of them. What did they do? Now, write everything that they did down, and then look across the board. What did they share in common? Now, what you're going to need to do is implement those things that they shared in common into your life. And what we've found through the study and the research we've done is that there's about 6 themes that stand out, right? So number one, all the top athletes in the world are very process-oriented. They're not result and outcome-oriented. So meaning every one of these athletes focus on what are they doing in the moment to get them one step closer to the goal they have. So they build a structured schedule and process that they stick to every day, and they're like militant about sticking to that. And when they do that, they know that if they stick to that process every day for 30 straight days, they'll reach the goal that they have. So they don't get caught up in focusing on losing 10 pounds or winning the game on Sunday. They just execute their process Monday through Sunday and show up on the game knowing they've done everything they can to prepare for it. So they're process-oriented, not outcome results-oriented. They stick to a schedule every day. They practice self-talk. And to your point, I think one thing that's important is the research is showing that it's not all about positive self-talk, though. That, yes, optimism is crucial, but really what they're finding is people who practice defensive pessimism are actually more successful than people who practice positivity, because anytime you set a goal, right, if you set a goal in your mind, you think about it, starting that goal and finishing it, all you think about is everything going perfectly in a positive mindset. However, people who practice defensive pessimism actually are more successful because they look at every way that plan can go wrong and think about what they're going to do in the moment if it does do that. So if I say I want to lose 10 pounds, I'm going to stick to this keto diet and I'm going to work out every day for 30 minutes. Okay, well, what if I don't stick to the diet today? What do I do? All right, well, in that case, I'm just going to say, so what now, what, and just focus on the next day. Or what I'll do is in that moment, I'll try to the next day reduce my calories by a certain percentage so that I can catch up and get back to a calorie deficit over the course of the week. So you start to think through all of the ways this thing could go wrong and then come up with a solution. So you reduce the anxiety and stress when something does go wrong, because we all know 99.9% it's going to go wrong. So, right? So practicing self-talk in a way where you keep yourself in the present moment. You don't, no judgment, your own best friend. That's what I tell my athletes. Like, the one thing that every one of my athletes have is, yes, they hold themselves accountable, but they're their own best friend. They don't practice judgment. They say, so what, that happened, fuck it, now what am I going to do about it? They're really gentle to themselves, and they coach themselves like they would coach a friend. And that's what you need to realize, is that you're coaching your brain. You're training your brain just like you would you train your child. Like, when you let all that doubt creep in about the fact that, like, you're going on this huge stage and you're a bit, are you ready? Is this too big of a stage for you? Is this crowd going to not like you? Like, all those things, your confidence when you go on stage as a comedian is due to what you're telling yourself, right? Mm-hmm. Like, there's nobody telling you, and based on what people are telling you is determining your confidence. It's what's happening inside of your brain. It's what you're accepting as inputs, what you're listening to, what feedback you're actually taking in and processing, or what your brain is telling you, like, oh man, like, you bombed last week, like, don't do it again, like that. So your low confidence coming from what your voice is telling you in your brain, right? So the two things right now is process-oriented, not outcome results-oriented. They practice self-talk. Every one of them take ownership and accountability, responsibility for all of their problems. They don't place blame. So, like, if you watch all the top athletes in the world, when they don't perform well and they play in a team, they don't point to fingers and go, what, that guy sucked today. He actually was the reason we lost. LeBron James may score 40 points, have a triple-double, and they lose in overtime. He's not going to point the finger at the guy who missed 3 3-pointers at the end of the game. He's going to be like, look, we just didn't have it. They were the better team, and it's on me as the leader of the team to figure it out, and we're going to come back stronger next game. Like, that's ownership. That's responsibility, and the best athletes in the world have that. I think we're in a society today where we're training our kids to offload responsibility to other people and not take responsibility ourselves. And we do that by not holding them accountable to their actions. There's no accountability. There's no consequences anymore.
I think when you do that, culture,
it is, man. And that's the best day of your life will be the day you stop placing blame on others and playing the victim and take responsibility for all of your problems in your life. Like, that's the thing. It's as parents, it's if your kid makes a mistake, don't go to their rescue. Let them experience consequence. Like, that's how you teach them how to take ownership and responsibility. If they have no consequences as kids, they're never going to learn that on their own. Like, everybody wants a safe net. It takes a parent who's going to be willing to say, look, this is the moment. As a family, we need to let them experience this consequence of this decision, because if we don't, they're just going to over and over in their life going to think that there's no consequences in life, and they're going to have fall into some hard times. So I think that's one thing, is responsibility and ownership of all your problems. So the other area is they use visualization. So the power of visualization, of really understanding, you have to see the impossible to see the invisible, do the impossible. Like, really understanding how to use visualization. One of the tools I give my athletes, so like Saquon as an example, I asked him, I go, all right, man, do you visualize? He's like, oh, yeah, every night. I'm like, okay, so tell me how you visualize. He's like, all right, well, so I call a play in my head, I close my eyes, and I run that play. And I'm like, all right, well, so walk me through your process. So he goes, oh, well, I lay in bed, I call a play, like, all right, this power run play to the right, where there's zone blocking scheme, or run to the right. And I'm like, so what happens? He goes, like, get the ball, and the hole opens up wide enough that Titanic can drive through it, and I run 80 yards or 100 yards for a touchdown. I'm like, okay, cool. How many times in your career has that happened? Never. I'm like, okay, so if it's never happened to your career, do you think that's helping you? He's like, no, probably not. So I was like, all right, try this. Let's try visualizing you practicing defensive pessimism. So visualize that same play. Now imagine your right tackle falls down and the D lineman flashes in the backfield. What do? Oh, well, if it's the D end, I would cut back to the left. All right, run that. Cut back to the left. All right, now imagine the hole opens up and the linebacker beats his block and shows up in the hole. What do? I bounced outside my tackle, try to get the sideline as fast as I can. Run that play. Boom. We do that 10 different ways. Well, now what happens in the game, that play gets called, he runs that play, and now he knows he's visualized 100 times, 10 different ways that play can go wrong and what his answer would be to do that. So his reaction time is just that much faster. And so he has reduced the stress, and he's visually practiced that. And based on the research we've done and understanding neuroscience, that under brain scan, we've seen that the brain lights up the same way physically doing it as it does visualizing it. And so your brain doesn't know the difference between you physically running that play or you visualizing it. So it has the same power of training those neurons and firing those neurons to start wiring together in a way that you start to see the field in a different way using visualization without having to do it physically. So again, another tool they use is visualization. And then the last one is just grit and resilience. The top athletes in the world are grittier and more resilient than the rest of us. And I think Angela Duckworth, who's the researcher at Penn, she wrote an amazing book called Grit.
Yeah, I
suggest everyone reads it. Yeah. It's awesome. And I asked her as a parent, like, hey, raising a 2-year-old, like, how can I don't care what he does, if he's, an athlete or a scientist. Like, I hope he's a scientist. We need more of those. But anyways, regardless, I want him to be great at whatever he does. How do I help him do that without being that, like, helicopter parent who's an asshole? And she was like, the best thing you could do to build and improve their grit, which is a skill, is to actually start setting time-bound goals for them at a very young age. So if he came to me and he was like, look, Dad, I want to start, I want to play the piano. I want to learn the piano. I'd be like, all right, awesome. Let's do it. Like, how long do you want? And I'll give you 2 scenarios. I go, how long do you want to do it? He goes, I want to play forever. I'm like, all right, well, let's do it. Let's go find it. We find a piano teacher. We start taking him 2 times a week. We take him to lessons, right? The first week he gets in the car after lessons. He's like, Dad, I fucking hate piano. It sucks. I don't want to ever play piano again. I want to quit. I'm like, no, stick to it. We're going to keep going. And every lesson he gets back in the car, wants to quit, hates it, cries, doesn't want to do it anymore, right? And after 3 weeks of hearing him complain and bitch and moan, I'm like, all right, fine, fuck it. I don't want to listen to this anymore. You can quit. And he quits. In that scenario, his grit goes down based on her scale, right? Same scenario. He goes, hey, Dad, I want to learn piano. I'm going, all right, how long do you want to do it for? He goes, forever. And I'm like, no, how about we just we agree, we make a commitment 3 weeks. You do it for 3 weeks. Okay, let's do it. We shake on it, right? Same thing happens. First lesson, cries, hates it, wants to quit. Second lesson, cries, hates it, wants to quit. Say it every day, quit, hates it, wants to quit. On the 3rd week, he completes the agreed upon time, and I let him quit on the 3rd week in 1 day. He quits. In that scenario, his grit actually goes up. And so she says that based on the same 2 scenarios, he quit at the exact same time away from starting that goal. His grit went up in one scenario, grit goes down in the other, just purely by setting a time-based goal to something. And so she said, for the common person, if you want to stick to a diet, you've never been able to do that. What you need to do is actually focus on a plan that you want to stick to and maybe do it for 4 days. And if you could complete those 4 days and then take a couple of weeks off and do it again, the likelihood of you completing that task for longer periods of time goes up by doing shorter micro goals like that and improving your grit score. So becoming more resilient is a skill you can train yourself on. It just requires you to set time-based goals. So, but the problem that people have is they go way unrealistic right out of the gate. They want to do something for 6 months or 6 weeks or whatever. Start with a week. Start with 7 days. If you can do something for 7 days, I know you can do something for 10 days, right? I know you can do something for 21 days. It's like, just start with something small, complete that. And based on her scale, which everyone who's listening can go take her grit test online, you can understand how gritty you are as a human being and then improve that based on just setting time-based goals for yourself. And in any area of your life that you feel like you're not resilient and you want to improve, that's something that I coach all my athletes on.
I just started rereading her book. I think it's great, and I think it's
awesome as a parent too, right? Like as a parent, it helps you understand she's been able to pinpoint what helps people be more successful in life, and it's improving resilience. And that's the great part. Her study was done at West Point, where basically it's like the most vetted, university in the world. You have to be a valedictorian and, 2 written letters from senators, and you have to, rescue 100 cats out of trees over the course of a fucking year or something. Like, it's ridiculous how hard it is to get in that school. And then yet they had like a 70% or something attrition rate. I might be screwing that data point up, but it was something crazy high. How many people ended up not making it through? And so they were like, look, we don't know what's going on here. We're vetting these cadets at such a high level. It's the most vetted, sample group in the nation for university acceptance, and we're still having a lot fall out. What are we doing wrong? And she was able to give the incoming cadets a grit test, and based on that number, she predicted with 97% accuracy who was going to fail and who was going to commit and stay in it. Yeah, based on that grit score. And so they now use the grit score as an acceptance kind of protocol, like one of the things you have to test on in order to get acceptance into West Point, and to improve their numbers of attrition. So there's a lot of amazing ways she's applied this research to show its validity, and I think for all of us who are listening, like, it's a great way to start to improve your ability to be more resilient and in turn be more successful in other things you want to be successful in.
There's another book that you might like. You might have read it. It was by the woman that was I'm looking at it here. I think it's called How to Parent. Maybe it's not, or How to Raise, or How to Parent an Adult. And it's the woman that was the director of admissions at Stanford. And
I've heard about that book.
It's basically the same thing. It's saying don't be a victim, don't helicopter your child. Like, children can learn things on their own, and they need to fall down, and they need to learn from their falls and get back up and do it. And, I battle with my wife all the time in that. We're always constantly, I'm going, stop. I've got to just like swim technique past her and
totally,
push
man.
her. I'm like, let her go, let her fall down, let her get up. She will learn. If you go pick her up, she's never going to learn. So that's what this woman claims. It's a really good thing. I don't have a lot of time with you because I got to do another one. But
cool, bro.
I mean, I could talk to you for 12 hours, as I do. You came to my show, and I felt like I pelted you for like 4 hours after the show.
Yeah.
And your poor wife was sitting there like, oh, my God, is this conversation ever going to end? And I look at you, and I have so much respect for you because you are such a wealth of knowledge, and I'm a know-it-all. But when I meet someone that I know knows more than me, I just shut up and listen. And people always go, why do you talk so much? I go, because I fucking know more than everybody. Like when somebody's telling me a story, I'm like, I got two better than you. Why are you telling me a dumb story? Yeah. So that's funny. So, but when I talk to someone like you, I'm just like, go, please, school me. I was just curious who the other zero athletes are over at Nike.
Yeah, so we have so it's interesting. I can't like go on to full detail on like how we get to that number, because a lot of it's like, how global of an athlete are they based on sports and stuff like that. And there's a lot of monetary things that are involved in that, so I don't want to get in trouble because Nike may punish me for falling out of line. Okay. I'm just kidding. But like, so it's like, think like Cristiano Ronaldo, LeBron James, Serena Williams of the world. The ones that you see in all the commercials we do globally are the ones who generally are the ones that we take the most kind of, the more delicate approach, sensitive approach with, just to make sure that they have everything they need. I mean, look, at the end of the day, Nike is sometimes paying some of these athletes more than the teams are paying them, right? Yeah. So it's like there's dual, incentives for both sides to want this athlete person to be as successful as they can be. The more successful an athlete is, the healthier they stay, the more, the higher they perform, the longer their career, the better it is for Nike, the better it is for them. So everyone wins in that situation. So we just try to provide as much resources as we can to keep LeBron playing as long as he can, as we possibly can. We can't do that for 1,000 athletes, but we try to do it for as many as we can. Are you still, the ones that are
you still working with Matt Frazier and Carl Webb and who else? You had Cole Sager?
Yeah. So Cole. So we, with all of those athletes, due to the fact that, like, look, that sport is so unique, right? And it's so specialized to the individual athlete based on their needs, what they're looking at, and just based on the sport and the amount of attention that they need, because training for them is literally year round. Whereas the thing about the other athletes we work with, they have seasons where, like, it's 6 months out of the year, I don't see Saquon. He's with his team, and I have communication with his strength coach, Aaron Wellman, and we chat once a week. But ultimately, Saquon's with them, and they have full autonomy over him. Whereas with CrossFit, it is 365 days out of the year. It's year round. You're always on. So it's too hard for us to take.
There's never been a sport where people work so hard for so little money.
Exactly. Yeah, it's crazy, right? Maybe track and field is another one.
Yeah,
but
that's true. Those guys they make money in Europe though. They make a lot of money.
Yeah, sort of, bro. 5 of them make money. The rest of them,
true. That's a good point. Good point.
So I would say. So my point is I think our CrossFit athletes, yes, we support, but due to the needs of like how much they need, they have their own teams around them that we just make sure they have everything they have. Like I talk to Cole, once every couple of months, and making sure that he's got everything he needs. If he has an issue, like recently he had a strength deficit, he was really trying to get his strength up and wanted my help with it. So I brought in a couple people I know who are, just some experts at that, and we got him some help in that area. So hopefully he starts to, we'll see some bumps in his strength levels in the next couple of competitions. But there's areas like that will help. But like Matt does his thing, and Matt's a fine-tuned, he knows what he needs and he does it. And so Matt needs a lot less from us than other athletes do, just based on the fact that he feels pretty confident in what he's doing is working, and obviously it is. So we try not to mess with something that isn't broken, know. And it's not broken.
He really is. He's perfect. He really
he's self-coached, man. That's the amazing part. He just knows what he's at the point in his career where he knows exactly what he needs, when he needs it, at what dosage, what volume, what eyes he needs on him at what point in the year, and he brings those people in there here and there, and it's working.
He did. So, it did help a lot, I think, when Hinshaw came in and started working with him.
Of course. Oh my God, dude! When Hinshaw came in, that from the last games to then the games after that, with the difference in his running, I almost fell out of my chair seeing the difference. Right, he went from one of the worst, kind of runners in the games athletes to one of the better runners and more efficient runners, and it was due to the work that he did with Hinshaw. I 100% agree. That was
from your background. People don't realize a sprinting workout is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. If you're doing it going 85% and you're running 200s or 100s, 200s, 300s, 400s, and you're running those hard, not like CrossFit runs. I'm talking almost at, you're not going full speed because you're going to get hurt, but going really, really top speeds and really, it's those. I never want to go through one of those workouts again. But they are what build you. They build you into a great athlete. So
I've had a few athletes over the years due to injury, due to some kinetic chain issues, just injury issue. There's just issues with strength training with them, and they just were delicate. They would get hurt if they did too much, different strength training in one way or another, whatever. Long story short, all I did with them was speed training. All I did was max velocity sprinting, acceleration work with sleds and, resistance sprinting, hill sprints. And all they did was run, sprint training, all out, kind of efforts. And they had better bodies and more, lean muscle mass than the athletes I had that all they did was strength train or, did a combination of sprint and strength training. You can build an incredible body by just doing sprint training alone. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the more forgotten kind of methodologies and techniques to build lean muscle mass out there that a lot of athletes who don't just utilize sprinting in their sport forget about. I think a lot of people at home are listening. They're just looking at improving fitness. Go download one of a Charlie Francis general GPP programs online or something, and go do that and see what kind of body you're.
Do you know if you still have to pay for Charlie Francis's stuff? Because everybody has everything free on the internet. I remember his was always behind this
expensive
paywall. Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude, it's super expensive. It was $500 to get his full thing. But look, Charlie's one of those guys. I think I talked about this last time. He was one of the brightest minds who unfortunately got. His name was tarnished based on the doping allegations, all that stuff. But he was so brilliant, and what gets forgotten is how smart he was as a trainer. And a lot of people who train CrossFit athletes, who train, swimmers or other Olympic athletes, football players, a lot of strength and conditioning coaches in the NFL, college, all use Charlie's as plans, as his GPP phases, all of his different phase periodization approaches to their programming today. He has one of the largest kind of reaches of any coach in terms of people who are influenced by him, of any trainer ever. He's a brilliant dude. If you haven't read his stuff, I highly suggest you go do it. Yeah, and there's a lot. I think there's still his widowed wife, Angela, who still who I know well, runs all of his stuff. She still sells a lot of his stuff. I do know though there's people have put his stuff out there, so you can find the basics. You can find the basics out there. But yeah, he's brilliant, man. But just go do some of his training. Some of his max velocity work, my God, there's some of his special endurance runs were just torturous.
I've told my buddy Hunter McIntyre, who has endurance that's better than anyone's I've ever seen in my life, and Hunter can't sprint to save his life. And I'm like, do some sprint work. As a CrossFit athlete, which he's converted over to somewhat from an OCR athlete. I don't know if you saw, he did Murph this week and supposedly set the world record in it.
Oh, no kidding.
Well,
I'll have to go check that out.
I forgot. I didn't talk about it during the show because we built it up for the last 3 weeks. He said, he was going to do this crazy, crazy time. He ended up beating... He did it unpartitioned with the weight vest. He went down to North Carolina, did it on a military base to raise money for a military foundation, and he did break the record, which was the record that held was Somebody did it in the games unpartitioned at 38 minutes. Someone did it. Josh Bridges did it at 35 something, partitioned, and so he did it unpartitioned and did it in 34:13. 34:13.
Wow.
He thought he was going to go around 30. He ran his first mile in 5:20, and then
he's insane. Man.
And then he was doing 2s on the push-ups. And then he was doing squats. He was a little weird on the squats. But right next to him was his training partner who beat him, who did it in 33-something. However, everybody was watching Hunter, and they had cameras on Hunter's. They had judges on Hunter. The other guy, I wouldn't have counted any of his reps. I would have gone no rep, which that goes on constantly, and everybody has it out there going,
sure.
Oh, I know a guy who did this, or I know a guy who did that. Have it on film. And this is what I want to say to anybody out there that's saying, oh, I know so-and-so did it. Have it on film that we can see it, and then you can claim it. Because Hunter is the only one I know that has it on film, and he does go faster than the last one that was on film, which was Josh Bridges. So I think it is the world record. And to be honest, I know he could go, if he was, again, not such a head case, and would have paced his first run, he would have done it a lot faster. So
yeah.
He is a freak of nature.
I know, man. I know. Since you've introduced me to him a couple of years ago, I've followed along, and man, he is next level, man. He is like what Saquon is to lower body freak strength. He is to just aerobic capacity. It's just unbelievable.
And when you talk about all that stuff you talked about, that's great. It's one of these episodes I'm going to want to go re-listen to and actually make my wife listen to, because I'll talk about our kids and be like, see, I told you. I've always said I liked hanging out. I hate, because Hunter listens to the show sometimes, but I hate giving him any compliments. But his energy's infectious when it comes to his mindset of, I can do this, I can do anything. And he will say, this is my goal. I'm going to break the world record. I'm going to break it by 5 minutes, 10. He didn't break it by 5 minutes, which his goal was, but he broke it. He broke
totally.
the world. And there's that attitude of, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put myself out there, and people want to kill him because of the way he runs his mouth off. But that's how it's, like we said about these great athletes that.
Yeah, man, that's the thing. I mean, all the top athletes I've been around, that's the one thing about them, is that they're not popular. A lot of times they're hated in some areas because they're willing to put that out there. And I think that's the thing. What you find is people who are willing to vocally share. That's the part about like taking ownership and being committed and taking responsibility of like, look, I want to be, and I've said this, I personally want to be the best in the world at what I do. Now, I'm not just going to go out and like tell everybody who is in the same field as I am or trains athletes or whatever that like I'm better than you. It's a personal, and that's probably for Hunter too. It's a personal like vision for myself and the accountability and the standard that I hold myself to, that every single day, if I want to be the best, and I'm going to wake up when I say I'm going to wake up, I'm going to do the things I say I'm going to do, I'm going to read the journals and the studies and the books that I say I'm going to read, I'm going to put the same effort and work into all the areas that I need to be the best in the world at the level that I would expect my athletes to do the same. And I say that verbally on podcasts, I want to be the best in the world at what I do, and it's not to say that people are going to be like, oh, what an arrogant asshole. It's not that. It's purely I just want to hold myself accountable. If I'm saying it to you on a podcast, sure, well, I'm going to go out there and then have to live it, because if I'm not, then everybody's going to be like, oh yeah, look at all the, all you're doing is posting Instagram videos. You're not really out there doing the things you say you do. The reason I don't have an Instagram following that a lot of other people do is because I don't have fucking time for it. I'm too busy doing other shit that matters.
That's awesome.
So good luck with creating content. I don't give a shit about that. I think too many people, you have to market yourself in this day and age to drive, revenue and create a living for yourself when you're a trainer. But I think people focus too much on the shit that doesn't matter, as opposed to things that are the most important. I think for Hunter, what he does and says out loud, truthfully, he doesn't give a shit what you think, and that's the part that makes him great, is he could care less what you think. It's about saying it out loud, so now it's out there, and that's the standard he's now got to hold himself to. So it's almost like an internal game he's playing with himself. Interestingly enough, like Kobe did this all the time. Muhammad Ali, people don't realize this. Yeah. Muhammad Ali, before he even won the world championship, told everybody, I am the greatest. I am the greatest boxer in the world, before he was a world champion. Yeah. Do you know how many people he pissed off? Do you know how many people hated him? And back in the day, too, when we were like literally had, people were, look, I'm not getting into the race conversation, but it was a difficult time for him, as an athlete and being vocal like he was. And yet he was like, I'm the greatest. in the world. I don't give a shit what you think. I'm going to beat you. And before he had beat Sonny Liston for the world championship, he was saying those things to Sonny Liston. So the best athletes in the world do what Hunter's doing. They are vocal and put their goals out there for you to hear and listen to, because it's not about you, it's about them. Muhammad Ali said that because, and he was later interviewed saying, I said those things because I was making it now. Now I said it out loud. I have to now hold myself accountable to that. I have to do it.
Well, I mean, I don't want to bring politics into it, and I'm not, going to say where I stand on it either, but you've got Donald Trump that's the same way, who has made it to the president of the United States, whether you like him or hate him. The guy did the same thing. It's all self-talk. It's people call it delusional and crazy, but the guy has gotten from where he was to where he is. And
dude, every one of my athletes is delusional and crazy.
Yeah,
I know every one of them. What they tell me they want to do, they've been saying these things. Yeah, Saquon could say I'm going to be the best running back in the history of the game, and right now some people would be like, no way. Some people would be like, yeah, probably, and others would be like, hell yeah, he's going to be. He is the best, right? Because of where he is, and he's an NFL player already. But he was saying those same things when he was 8 years old.
Yeah,
and his parents were like, maybe like, do your homework, because there's a small chance you're going to reach that goal. But he was telling his parents, go fuck off, I'm going to be the best running back ever to play. And that's the thing, like, the biggest detriment as parents listening or coaches to tell those kids who tell you I'm going to be the best Major League Baseball player in the game, or I'm going to be the best CrossFitter in the world, like, tell them good, then go do it. I'm going to hold you accountable to that. Don't tell them like, maybe you should think different, because those are the people who are willing to go out there and put themselves on the line like that are the ones who end up becoming the best in the world at some point. I mean, Steve Jobs was brilliant at this. Like, he was, yes, an asshole, but he would tell you to your face he was smarter and better than you, and he was going to go prove it. And that's what makes some of the greatest people in the world great. I think the secret that people don't realize is that I've had this conversation with some of these athletes. The people, what they know that other people don't is not so much a secret as they were willing to go and say things that nobody else was willing to say, and they would hold themselves accountable to that and ultimately prove them right and you wrong. And they know that very few people on earth, very few, are willing to publicly say the same things and hold themselves accountable to that. And they know in that moment they've beaten you, because that's doubt. Then you have doubt in yourself. If you're not willing to go out there on a podcast and say, I'm going to be the best CrossFitter ever to walk the planet, when you're not right now, the best CrossFitter on the planet right now, Matt Frazier, has no reason to doubt you, because you're not willing to put yourself out there. And the people that are the ones that he's nervous about. Like, Hunter is the one, I guarantee you, one and a few others, that he is like, they're willing to die for this like I am, and I'm nervous that they're coming up because they're willing to go out there and tell everybody that they're going to hold themselves accountable to that standard. And that's what, like, when a young player comes in the league and says, I'm going to be the best quarterback to ever play the game, like, people are like, no, you're not. Yeah, right. But in the back of their mind's like, oh, shit. Like, if he's willing to say that now, like, that's what it takes, is that naive belief.
I've seen it in the comedy business.
Yeah.
I've seen people coming up. Comedy's something where nobody likes ambition. People hate ambition.
Totally.
And we reward people for humility. Like, I like that guy. You never like the arrogant guys, but the arrogant guys do succeed. And the ones that came out, like Dane Cook, went all the way to the top and was selling stadiums like no one I've ever seen before. No one. Like, he was surpassing Dice Clay. And that was because Dane said, I am going to be the biggest comedian in the world. And he created a lot of enemies, a ton.
Totally.
But he did do it. And there is that. And I will see it sometimes. When I first met Gerard Carmichael, who I believe is a brilliant comic, who skyrocketed, got a sitcom, an HBO special, everything so soon, like, a few years being in the business. When I first met him, I saw that he had talent on stage, but you see a lot of comedians with talent. But I talked to him afterwards, and the way he talked to me, I went, oh, watch the fuck out for this kid. This kid is going to shoot to the top because he has that attitude, and he's not afraid of you judging him. And a lot of the stuff you said, I just want to say as a closing, I noticed a lot of it is in line with Buddhism. Buddhism's like, it's all about the intention, not the outcome. Like, if you worry about the intention only, the outcome will be great. But if you worry about, like, giving your best and giving 100% and leaving it all in the field or the gym or whatever you're doing, and you're like, I have to think, I'm going to go on stage, I'm going to do the best show I can do. I'm not thinking about how am I going to get paid, how much am I going to get paid, are they going to put me on TV, what's going to happen, am I going to get a sit? I have to just think, go out there and do the best show tonight that I can possibly do, that people go, I love to, it'll all work out. I'm not worried about winning anything, but like, so the intention, if the intention's there, the outcome just happens.
Totally, and I think that's so important that you mentioned that, because I think the thing I always tell my athletes about, I think a lot of people don't understand this, is that there's two sides to this. I always talk about it's like people always right now, and really popular with meditation and a lot of different teachings like Buddhism and things have been around for thousands of years that are now coming in the spotlight and becoming really popular, are incredible for mental health. But there's another aspect called mental performance that not a lot of people are focusing in on, that I think is a huge ripe area where, for the most part, a lot of people don't understand the benefit it could have in their life. Now, I don't think for you that are listening right now, if you don't have the goal of being the best in the world at something, I think it's the first thing you got to challenge yourself on. Because what I always tell people when I give this talk or I talk to athletes is that everybody in the world should have a goal to be the best in the world at something. For me right now, I want to be the best dad in the world. Now, I'm not competing against you to win a trophy, right? But I'm holding myself accountable to the idea that the best dad in the world would be somebody who's present at all times, that's phones away. I'm not on my phone all day long or texting people while I'm with him, or, I'm completely committed to doing that, reading books. Like, that's something that I hold myself accountable. I'm okay to say that, because that's a lot of the standard I want you to hold me to and say, hey, listen, man, I think you're fucking up on that. Like, that's the goal, is me telling it out loud or talking about it. Like what Hunter does is also probably to hold himself to that standard, tell people, hold him accountable. And I think there's an ability to say, what is it that you want to be the best in the world at now? And then go study people who are, that you believe are in that, and then carry on some of the things that you see are, consistencies across the board. As I say, success leaves clues. Like, that's the thing that I think not a lot of us focus in on trying to be. And it's okay to want to desire to be great. I think as a society have been a bit like drilled into our head. It's not even about humility as much as it's about, like, if you say anything, it's going to be perceived as arrogant, then don't do it because you're going to be looked at as an asshole. And I think that's completely broken. Like, I really don't believe in that. I think there's something in being vocal about, putting out there into the world, like, what it is you want to do, the goals you want to accomplish, and the desired vision you have for your life, and allow the people around you to either tell you no, because nobody who's on a path to greatness everyone who's on a path to greatness has haters. So if you don't have any haters, like, you're probably not doing something right. And then second, you want the people who are around you to know what standard you need to be held accountable to, so they can help you along that vision. And it'll also bring to light the people in your life who don't have your best interests and maybe aren't there for you in the long run. And I think it can shine a light on a lot of areas. And that's the one thing with my athletes. I have them. I need them to understand that, not everybody around you, the people sometimes that are closest to you, are going to be the ones who don't want to see you succeed. And I know you know this in comedy, bro. Like, some of your best friends in comedy are the exact ones who do not want to see you make it. Because when you do, then you're not going to be like someone that they want to relate to anymore. They love seeing you stay at the same level they are, so it doesn't make them feel bad about themselves. And I think that's the part that people struggle with, is like, it's hard to feel really fucking good about somebody who's killing it, that you're friends with, who you're just as good as. So it's a hard friend to be this supportive of, like, I love to see you win. It's like me winning when you win. And those are the type of friends you want to surround yourself with, because that's who are going to help carry you where you need to go. Yeah.
Well, what's the phrase? A high tide rises all boats.
Of course, man.
And this podcast, I can tell you, it's going to be so well listened to. It was inspirational.
Sorry, I didn't mean to go Tony Robbins.
No. I needed that right now. You just told me, like, I've thought that way in my life at times, and I'm like, hey, I fell off that. But it's like, again, like, my thing, I wanted to be the best comedian in the world. I wanted to be the best hurdler in the world. There are different, and now I want to be the best at having a well-balanced life. I want to be the best father. I want to be as good an athlete as I possibly can be. I want to do all these things and live a long, healthy life. So, I want to create great content for people that they can grow from. So it's inspirational. And people don't usually shake me out of my funny and cynical asshole view, but you did it, and I appreciate it. And I wish I could talk to you for hours. When's your book coming out? You should write a book. You should when you're retired. Keep doing the work you do at Nike.
All right, deal.
Get those big paychecks. No, thank you for doing the show so much. It's an honor to have you on here. I know how busy you are, and to have you. I know people love this information, so spreading this information is incredible, and they learn from this one. I always say I either want to do a really entertaining podcast or a really informative podcast, and with you, I feel like we do both. So thank you again.
And
so where can they find you?
I mean, I'm on Instagram. To be honest, I don't go on that often. It's kind of everyone talks shit to me because they're like, why don't you should do more? But anyways, at Ryan J Flaherty on Instagram. Or just email me. My personal email is ryan@prolificathletes.com. I like to answer questions. People have questions, like, hit me up. Happy to engage with you guys and help you, figure out what you're trying to do.
And everybody listening, thank you, and you're welcome.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Rate, review, comment, and, get on the Patreon and do everything you do to help out the show. We appreciate it. Thanks for listening to the show. Like I said, check out the wellness group if you want to bring testing to your facility. And they are you email them at info@wellnessgrp.com. Make sure you mention Wadcast in the subject line. That's info@wellnessgrp.com. And also, Saturday night, if you want to see Talking Shit, the famous podcast, the craziest one ever. This is the 500th reunion episode. We are doing it Saturday night, 7:30 Pacific Standard Time at, it's called See Ya Live. See Ya Live. And the link is sia.live. That's cya.live. And then /event/2013. So 2013. And it's the Talkins Hit 500th episode. You can see us on the main page, or you can find it in the info or my bio and Instagram or my Facebook page. But thanks for listening, guys.